Hello, hello, and a happy Friday. No Makeup Friday. Tamira Hamilton here. And so I made a post last night, and on that post, I talked about social networking. And I realized that it has been a long time since I have come on here and talked social networking with y'all because, we evolve and things grow, but everything is also cyclical. And so I think it's time to have that conversation again. So if you are here for the first time, my name is Tamara Hamilton. I am the creator of Haute Chocolat Lifestyles brand, along with Pin Profits Mastery course. And I love to help mamas who are sick and tired of the corporate rat race and sick and tired of being used and abused, overworked, and underpaid create their exit strategy through monetizing what they already know can do and have done with on social media. So social media marketing is my jam. I've spent over 30 years. I know a lot of people don't believe that looking at me, but I've spent over 30 years in the field of marketing. It is just who I am. It is what I love, sales, marketing, leadership. Okay. And so today we are going to talk about the truth about social media marketing, the big, the side that not a lot of people talk about. Okay. So I'm going to give everybody just a moment and see what everybody's got going on, and we will jump right into this. Okay. It is so important to know that social media is not just where you can go and start spamming people. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of people make is they just start spamming people and they don't understand social media as a strategy. Okay. They understand social media as a tactic, however, not as a strategy. Your strategy is overall, it is the vision and how you're going to execute on the vision. And then there are tactics that you do. So think about it as an outline. There's the vision, and then the next first subset is strategy. And underneath there are the tactics, right? So the strategy may be to be the premier brand on Instagram when it comes to faceless marketing. And then the that can be the vision, right? And so the strategy will be to have a killer bio and be recognized as the go-to resource for faceless marketing. And then the tactics can be posting 3 reels a day. And the faceless marketing is actually, a part of that as well. So you have to know the difference between those two, first of all, between strategy and tactics, because, a lot of people think, for example, oh, just throwing up some B-roll with some words on it is your social media strategy. And that, my dear, is not your strategy. Your strategy is a lot more encompassing than that. And we're not going deep into strategy today. I want to talk more about what that strategy should look like, right? That strategy is basically around 4 core activities or behaviors, right? So your strategy should include social networking, social influencing, social listening, and social selling. Unfortunately, way too many, and I know because I do a lot. I've done a lot of social media audits in my 10 years, right? Some of them publicly, some of them privately, and definitely for pay. In fact, it's one of the first things I do when I work with a private client one-on-one is I'm going to audit their Facebook and or their Instagram, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to categorize their most recent 10 to 20 posts and take a look at, are they balanced? Do they have the majority of their posts in one category, or do they have their posts split up between the 4 functions of social media marketing strategy? And I can tell you, more often than not, they do not have all 4 in their quote unquote strategy. They usually are very heavy on social selling, and they are very low to no social networking and even listening, right? They may have some social influencing, but I can think of only one one client that I worked with that was really high on social influencing, and that's because they were a PR firm. So yes, a lot of their posts were about social influencing, but they didn't do a lot of, hey, just like we work with this client, we can work with you, which would be social selling. They didn't do a lot of social, they did do some, they were decent in social listening, but they didn't do a lot of social networking. Okay. And so today, what I want to talk to you about is the social networking piece, because like I said, more often than not, whether you're a solopreneur, a larger brand or not, you are not engaging in social networking. So what would social networking look like? It would look like that advice that you get often about, going to a hashtag on Instagram, for example, and interacting with those posts that are on that hashtag. That's Gary Vee's $8 strategy or something like that, where you quantify your time in a certain amount of dollars and cents, and you're going to give your quote unquote 2 cents or your $8 worth of cents on posts that are related to your ideal client, where they're hanging out on Instagram by the way of the hashtag, right? So that is what social networking kind of looks like. It also looks like the group strategy of being a part of groups. And instead of being in there pitching, you are in there serving, you are in there answering questions, you are in there interacting on other people's posts. The best social listeners actually very rarely post in groups on Facebook. They are in there making themselves known and seen and heard by serving others. Okay. So that is a great example of social networking. Okay. So there's also the 333 method by Marina Simone, where you are interacting with people. Again, you can do it based on hashtag search on Instagram, for example, and you go in and you like a certain number of posts, you comment on a certain number of posts, and then you end up in their inbox, right? And so I actually have a video from a few years ago that's still very valid on YouTube, and I can send it to you. All you have to do is ask for it. And it goes over the messenger aspect of social social networking and being of good etiquette, right? Like, don't message me and you haven't actually taken the time to look at my profile, right? Don't offer me things when, I might be offering the same thing, right? Like, I can't tell you how many people from a certain company love to jump in my inbox because they're doing the hashtag search, and they're not realizing that most of the people that use that hashtag are actually partnered with that company. And so they jump in my inbox and they might not pitch me right away, but it's like, if you knew how much of that product I've sold and continue to sell, and I don't even actively promote it, you might not be in my inbox, because I can't be a part of your team because I still have a very active account and customer base. I might not be building it, I might not be actively promoting it, but I'm still very much selling that product. And I've sold more of that product than most people in that company. So, yeah, you want to check and read people's profiles before you start pitching them and approaching them, right? I don't get mad at them. I don't get schnazzy or anything like that, but you just want to do that. That's just like, good etiquette. And that is what that video is all about. And I can send that to you. I should put it back on the blog. I don't think I've put that one on the blog yet. So we can do that. So when we talk about social networking, you definitely want to think in terms of, like I said, some etiquette. And I've got 5 tips here. Okay. And the first thing you want to do is, for example, if you go into a group, one of the best things you can do is introduce yourself right away. So you want to do some sort of personalized introduction. You don't want to just copy and paste an introduction into that group. You want to make your introduction relevant to that group. Okay. So when you're connecting with someone new, you want to send a personalized intro that highlights your common interests along with your reason for connecting. Otherwise, it just really doesn't make sense for you to be in my inbox just because you saw my profile and you liked my blue hair. I'm going to thank you and move on. I'm not going to be interested in going back and forth and having a lot of conversation with you. And so this is what's going to help you give a great positive first impression and lay the foundation for a meaningful relationship. Because there's this saying, people want to know what's in it for them, that everybody tunes into WIIFM, what's in it for me. People want to feel seen, they want to feel known and acknowledged. And when you go into their inbox and you go on their posts and you start talking like you haven't paid any attention when it's there readily available, it makes you look a little weird. I'll tell you another weird one is you know going too gaga over someone's kids or grandkids. That can be a problem for some people. You want to be very, very um cautious of that, okay? And when you can, especially in Messenger, use voice messages for that personal touch. I wouldn't bring that right out of the bag though, because some people get offended by that and some people don't have time to listen to that right away. I typically only use voice once the conversation has gotten to a certain point, and I will say, is it okay if I voice message you, because this is just too much to type? But that voice messaging, letting people know it and hear your voice, really takes things up a notch, because sometimes things get a little too black and white. There's not a lot of gray with the written word. And yeah, some people might read something one way and other people might read it another way. And punctuation and grammar really make a big difference when it comes to that. And it's a great way to stand out. I will say that getting the video greetings sometimes is a little weird. I will say that, depending on the relationship and how often I talk to you and how well I know you. But there are certain people that I know very well, even if only from online, that do it. And I love it when they do it, because I know that it was personalized and it was just for me. Okay. You want to really focus on building genuine relationships as well. And so to do that, you want to be more interested and not be interesting. That means you want to make sure that you are showing interest in what people are doing, what they know, and that you've paid attention, like I've said. Okay. So that's really your foundation. That's your step zero. Now, when it comes to social networking, you definitely want to show up with the right mindset. Okay. And this whole video, this whole live is because I'm kind of sick and tired of hearing, oh, why would I worry about social media? And I'm just going to do networking offline. But if when I hear a business owner say that, I get really concerned, because it's like, first of all, you're a business owner. Let's put your big girl panties on and let's understand that what you can do offline, you can in fact do online. And just like you can network offline, you can network online. And often it's more cost effective, as well as when you look at your time and ROI on your time, you often will get better ROI from social networking online. So you want to show up with the right mindset. And if you go into it with an open, positive mindset, you're going to have an open, positive experience. If you go into it with a negative, closed mindset, you're going to have a negative, closed experience. So you want to always go in with the heart of a servant. How can I serve? How can I help people? Yes, be intentional. Yes, be strategic, but at the same time, really focus on making it mutually beneficial and not just treating people like they are meat on a stick or prey. Okay. Number two, you want to be prepared with your 3-minute commercial, your self introduction, right? And sometimes I'm bad at forgetting to mention what I actually do. But I don't like to lead with that. I like to lead with who I am. I am a mom. I am a grandma. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm a Scotty girl, right? And, the things that I love tacos. I love Wonder Woman. I want to be seen as a human first. And this is the part where I think why some people really struggle with social networking is because you have to be human. You can't hide behind your business. Okay. And, you have to have a certain amount of vulnerability. And this is why I think introverts do well on social media, because we love to protect our energy, because we can really easily absorb other people's energy. And you can still absorb it through the digital waves, but it's just different. Okay. So you want a really short, engaging self intro that is going to really concisely So who you are and what you do. Okay, because people are going to know who you are and why you just hopping up in the inbox, just waving, or back in the day poking. It might make people be like, what do you want, why are you here? Okay. And then the other thing I would say is the person who talks the most loses. So you want to listen actively and engage fully. You want to be paying attention. And this is honestly why I love social networking over in-person networking, because number one, protect my energy, and number two, I can still kind of multitask, right? There's, Messenger. I do a lot of it through Messenger, through interacting on people's comments, posts, and commenting, and as well as in their stories, because people want that dopamine hit, and so I love to give them that dopamine hit, but in a meaningful way, because it's weird when you leave comments that are just bland and generic, and I know we all do that to a certain degree, but when it comes from certain people, I really feel that, like, it just feels and sounds disingenuous. So one of the things I would definitely say is use your real voice on social media, and lose the catalog voice, lose the overly professional voice. Even on LinkedIn, you want to be seen as a human and show your personality, because that's really how you're going to stand out. And one of the things I really excel at is listening actively, and being fully engaged, and that's a lot easier to do for me through social networking. And then the other thing I would say is make sure that you, when you commit to doing something to someone, for someone, like I will say, oh, I want to introduce you to a person, right? Someone just did it yesterday. We connected over Zoom, and she promised me to make an intro to someone in her network, and she did a three-way chat on Messenger, and so she followed through. Okay, so after you meet someone new, you want to make sure that you follow up with what you say you're going to do. Follow up with a note, an email, or even a LinkedIn connection request, and check them, because I am horrible about checking LinkedIn requests. But I tell people that up front, and so, but they still want to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I tell them, like, that's my least favorite platform. I have a presence there. I don't really check it that much, but I've been better at that this year. Okay. And when you do that, mention something specific from your conversation. If they said they were going on vacation, ask them how their vacation was, right? If they said they were going to dinner for their birthday, ask them how that went, because it shows that you care. Because so many people are treating people, especially when it comes to social networking, like a name and number. They're literally just copying and pasting scripts and moving on to the next, without actually really getting to know the person and building a relationship. And trust me, this is no more work than what you are doing and what you should be doing when it comes to offline networking. Okay. And then number five, you don't message someone twice and then hit them over the head with your offer. Okay. Relationships can take time, right? And so that's why I like to keep lists, and I make sure, if the algorithm isn't showing me their posts, that I go and I pull up their posts and I interact, I watch their stories, and I am like a dentist. I will just say, hey, I will just do a check in, like, hey, I hadn't talked to you in a while, or hadn't seen you online in a while. That happened to me years ago. I hadn't been to church, and the pastor's wife called me, and it made me feel seen in my absence, that someone noticed that I wasn't showing up and was concerned, and she cared enough to reach out to me. And so we've had a really long friendship because of that. And so you want to cultivate that relationship. Pay attention when someone's not showing up. Just say, hey, checking in on you. Are things okay? Just check in to say, hey, check in to say happy birthday. The point being, don't just comment, don't just interact, don't just message when you want something, or when you have to something to offer. Okay. And then I've got two more bonus tips, and one of them being, actually three. Leverage social media wisely. Okay. You want to use it to research and connect with your potential connects before and after networking events. So you can, if you attend something in person, I don't do business cards for this reason. I will ask the person, let's connect on Instagram or Facebook right now. What's your Instagram? Pull it up and follow each other and then message them after that event. Same within a group. If you connect, and you got to read these group rules, because you shouldn't just be going through there and sending friend requests to all of their constituents. But at the same time, when people make meaningful connections, they can't police that either. Okay. So you want to make sure that you leverage social media wisely. It is my new business card, right? I will go through regularly and make sure I have a certain number of slots open. And so I will go through and look for people who've deactivated their account, who aren't active, who displeased the queen, and I will unfriend them so that I have room for new connections. Okay. And then the other thing, and I love to do this, is be generous with your network, right? And so what that means is I love connecting people. I love when I know two people have something in common, saying, hey, have you met so and so? You should really connect with them. Whether they end up doing business together or not, they end up making connections, and then it opens up two complete networks to each other. And I love being that intersection, that connection point that brought them together. And so, that is something you want to do, is be generous with your network. Now, I am not a fan of having my friends list public on Facebook, because there are people who know that I am well connected and a connector and a people collector. And so they will meticulously go through my friends list. And I don't like the way that makes me feel. So I do keep my friends list private. But when I make a one-to-one connection with somebody, I love to refer people and put two people together. I also look for other ways that I can serve. This is what cuts down on the whole "can I pick your brain" conversation with me. Number one, the way that I market myself, people understand that there is no such thing as picking my brain for free. Number two, when I connect with someone, I always show up ready to serve and offer value. And I love to direct them to different resources, be it blog posts, YouTube videos, pins, or Instagram posts that I have, in any of my free resources, as well as those of people in my network, right? I was talking to someone who owns an Airbnb and is considering me for their marketing services. And I explained how, even though they were an Airbnb, they would still want to make connections with the hotels in the area. And they were like, really? I was like, yeah, because there are sometimes when they can't accommodate someone, sometimes they mess up and they need to upgrade someone, or there's a really bad customer service experience and they need to make it right, and they will call you and put people up at your place, right? And even overflow when they have when they're booked, right? If and a lot of people don't know this, hotels overbook intentionally because they know so many are going to cancel, so they will overbook. And then sometimes everybody shows up, so then they got to make it right, and they got to find places for people to go. So, that we talked about that in terms of, you never know when someone is going to need to call you. And so you always want to show up and be positive and build a good relationship. Plus, people move around, right? People move around, and you never know. Like, I worked for 5-7 years in the travel industry. People move from property to property, from amusement park to amusement park. And so you don't want to burn any bridges. And then my last tip would be to download the Essential Guide to Social Media Engagement. I've put together 8 tips for you to be able to engage effectively on social media, to begin to build that network. Because my whole framework, my whole process begins with creating content that connects and stimulates conversation to move people to some sort of consultation. And content that connects is going to be content that engages. And you can download that at tamarahamilton.com/engagement. And you can also message me at 414-404-6040, and I will send it to you. But the whole point of this is, we got to do better. When you know better, you do better. And there is no reason to be in people's inboxes with scammy pitches and showing that you have not listened to them at all. Okay. And so This guide doesn't necessarily go into that. I have a video that I can send you. All you got to do is text me or drop an emoji below and I will send it to you. And then I also have that social media guide to engagement, which will help stimulate conversation and help you be able to social network a lot more effectively because it's a skill, right? It's a skill like anything else. Some people are born very natural at it, different color personalities and all the different archetypes out there. And then there are people who have to learn it, right? I'm a combination. There were some things I knew naturally from watching my grandmother was definitely a social butterfly, right? But I'm also a little bit more on the introverted side. And so I like to do things the right way. And I like to, have a process and a framework and a mechanism. So I've studied some things and I know some things and I know how to network pretty effectively. I was at my birthday dinner with my brother-in-law and sister. And he was like, "You've got 5,000 friends on Facebook." I was like, "Well, you got to understand, I'm related to half of the city." And he's like, "Well, so am I, but I only have 200." And I'm like, "Well, between my education and the various jobs, my resume, I've got I'm always at 5,000 and having to remove people. And with what I do, that's a good problem to have." So, you definitely want to become a people collector and more so a people connector. That is where your value is. And if you're looking for some good books on that, I would recommend Susan Rohn. She is the best I've ever read on networking. In her books span well before the internet and social networking and Facebook, but it's good foundational. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and even Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Okay. So that is our video for today. I am going to go. It is Friday. Enjoy the rest of my Friday. And don't forget to download that essential guide to social media engagement, because engagement is what a lot of you are missing. It's a lot easier to network. It's a lot easier to build a list. It's a lot easier when you have a network. And the reason why a lot of you are struggling on social is because you do not have a social network, right? You have your network who's also on social, but you don't have a social network of people that strictly from online. You don't have that network of people who are in your audience, in your community of your ideal client from online. And because you see social media as a big spam orgy where you can just show up and sell, 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 you're there to just take and not give. And that is the problem. So these tips should definitely help with that. And I will see you in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye.